All right, Wednesday, November 11th, 2015. Derek Davis and Rob Vino with Rob Vino's Sports and SportsBettingToday.us. College football, first game tonight, game 105-106. Here's your betting breakdown. Bowling Green at Western Michigan. Western Michigan, the home dog in this one. Bowling Green -3 on the road. A total is 72. The weather in this one, which I covered earlier in the weather report for Sports Bettors video. Weather for this one, there is a storm moving into Kalamazoo tonight. Should be the big stuff. The wet weather should be after the game. Leading up to the game and through the game, though, it should be a chance for increasing wind. And Rob, as we know, wind does have an effect on football. Personally, I'm having trouble finding a side here. I am leaning Bowling Green, Rob. I do think that they could probably win the shootout that is coming on the road. But again, Western Michigan has shown us a lot. Neither one of these teams have been challenged in the past few weeks, have they, Rob?
Yeah, well, you're certainly right about that, Derek. Neither one of these teams has been challenged recently. That's because they both played inferior competition from the MAC. For Bowling Green, it was a bunch of divisional games. They're in the East Division where there is no competition. For Western Michigan, they played a lot of the East as well. They have not faced the top level of the MAC West as of yet, much like the Big 12 Conference, where the upper echelon teams had their schedules all backloaded for November. That's really the identical thing that's happening here in the MAC West with Western Michigan, Northern Illinois, and Toledo all battling for the top spot and a berth in the MAC Conference Championship game. And they're all going to play each other the next 3 weeks. So after this Bowling Green game, Western Michigan will see Northern Illinois. They will see Toledo. Right now they're 5-0 in conference. Their destiny is in their own hands. But they face a real gauntlet coming up starting tonight here at home against Bowling Green. Much is said, and rightfully so, about the Bowling Green offense. Obviously, they've been spectacular this season. I think if Matt Johnson had stayed healthy last season, we would have seen even bigger results out of Dino Babers' club. He's obviously an offensive mind, running the up-tempo spread offense. But for Western Michigan, it goes a bit unnoticed. Since they've gotten into conference play in their 5 games, they've averaged 47.4 points per game, only allowed 20.2. And granted, as we discussed earlier, a lot of that's due to the level of competition. But to be winning games by 4 touchdowns and averaging 47.4 points per game, when you look at both sides of the line of scrimmage, offensively in this game, you find triplets, so to speak, if we go back to the Dallas Cowboys days of the 90s on each side here. For Western Michigan, quarterback Zach Carroll, running back Jarvion Franklin, wide receiver Daniel Braverman, and I would even add Corey Davis, who's a spectacular wide receiver. They really have 4. Call them quadruplets, skill position players that are home run hitters every time they touch the ball. This is a very dangerous offense. And for anybody who's seen PJ Fleck coach the last couple of years at Western Michigan, boy, he's one intense guy on the sidelines, always positive. Players would run through a brick wall for him. I like the makeup of this Western Michigan team. Let's not forget that in the non-conference schedule, they played Michigan State and Ohio State. And they played both of those teams pretty tough. The Ohio State final score is a bit misleading. Western Michigan had additional chances to score in that game where they didn't. So the 38-12 could have very well been somewhere around 38-20, 38-23, which would look much more respectable. But the 38-12, like I say, is a bit misleading. That's good competition at home here against Bowling Green. They're not going to be in awe of anything. But when Bowling Green marches in with their set of triplets, this is as dangerous as it gets. Matt Johnson, like I said earlier, if he had not gotten hurt last year, Bowling Green would have put up huge numbers last year as they are doing this season. With Matt Johnson, with Travis Green at running back, with Roger Lewis, who to me looks like a surefire NFL wide receiver. You've got home run hitters on that side of the ball. And they go at such an incredible pace. We'll see if the Western Michigan defense can keep up. Weather was a deciding factor in the big push downward on the total here. especially today, a little bit yesterday, but especially today. We saw an opener of 76 throughout the last couple of days creep down to 71.5. Now there's some take back up to 72. The 11 o'clock hour in Kalamazoo is when the winds are really supposed to increase and the rain is supposed to come. The percentage of rain really picks up. So perhaps your fourth quarter is a bit troublesome weather-wise. Throwing the football always affected by wind, not necessarily of the 15 to 20 mile per hour variety, but here we're talking about 22 to 28 miles per hour. So it could depend on which team is going with the wind in the fourth quarter in this one as to who wins the ball game. As I said earlier, I like both of these teams, but I happen to like what I've seen out of Western Michigan this year. If I had to play the side, I'd probably look toward the Western Michigan side. And I'll tell you this, if the rain holds off, people are going to get a bargain at over 72 here now, about 90 minutes before kickoff. That price tag is too low for these two teams. If it's a dry track for the entire, I'm going to guess 3 hours and 45 minutes that it's going to take to play this football game. So once again, a fantastic game, huge implications for the Western Michigan side, especially. They need this victory with Northern Illinois and Toledo coming up. Bowling Green has a huge game coming up next week as well against the Western Division. So you're going to see a lot of these two teams. You saw a little bit last week. Going to see the MAC midweek action, the remainder of their regular season. Like Western Michigan a little bit. Wouldn't be surprised if they pull the outright upset. And as I said earlier, if in fact it stays dry, this game will probably get over the total.